Ladies and gentlemen, imagine it's 1947. You're cruising through Buffalo, New York in a convertible that's smaller than your neighbor's ego and has a roof that disappears faster than political promises after elections. You stop at a red light and someone leans out their big Packard to ask, "What in the Sam Hill is that thing?" You smile, pop the hardtop like a magician's trick and shout back, "It's a Playboy, baby!" Before he can process whether you mean a car or a lifestyle, you've already zipped off down the street at a screaming 60 miles an hour. Folks, buckle in. We're going top down into the wild, wonderful world of the 1947 Playboy A48 convertible. Now, before we get too deep into Buffalo-built brilliance, go ahead and hit that subscribe button like it's 1947 and someone just offered you dealership rights for a brand new American car company. You never know, it might flop or you might be driving history. Let's rewind to post-World War II America, a land of optimism, surplus steel, and small businessmen with big dreams. In Buffalo, New York, 3 such men dared to take on Detroit. Lou Horwitz, a Packard dealer, Charles D. Thomas, a former Pontiac engineer, and Norman Richardson, a mechanic, joined forces with a dream to build a compact, affordable, stylish second car for American families. Something zippy for around-town errands, something modern, something, in their words, truly new. Armed with 50 grand in startup capital, about the cost of a classic Beetle today, they founded the Playboy Motor Car Corporation in 1947. Their first prototype was a rear-engine convertible shown at Buffalo's Statler, seating 3 and using a small Continental 4, 20 horsepower. It was weird. It was abandoned faster than a diet at Thanksgiving. The team rethought the layout, moving the engine to the front, driving the rear wheels, and got to work on something no one else in America had, a steel retractable hardtop. By summer 1947, the redesigned Playboy Model A48 was born, and with it, the United States had its very first production car with a disappearing hardtop roof, beating Ford's Skyliner by a decade. The car caught attention quickly. It was shown in Buffalo, then Chicago, with decent reviews and even a full feature in Mechanics Illustrated. The company sold dealer franchises across the country and acquired an old Chevrolet plant for mass production. They even launched a public stock offering in May 1948 to raise $20 million. But just as their retractable dreams were taking shape, the Securities and Exchange Commission took a wrecking ball to the startup world. The Tucker Car Corporation, another ambitious post-war automaker, was under investigation for stock fraud. Though unrelated, the stink rubbed off on everyone. Investor confidence vanished like the Playboy's roof in a summer breeze. The capital drive sputtered. Only about $2.5 million was raised. By early 1950, even a possible rescue deal with industrialist Henry J. Kaiser failed, and by 1951, the Playboy Motor Car Corporation was no more. In the end, only 97 Playboys were built, including the prototype, between 1947 and 1949. They were hand-assembled pilot cars, each a little different, each a mechanical snowflake. Most weren't even sold through showrooms. They were distributed to dealers or used for promo events. One unfinished chassis remained when the doors shut for good. A few were rescued by distributors, some were repurposed as golf course carts, and about 43 are believed to survive today. Among those survivors, the original prototype is preserved in the Saratoga Automobile Museum, while 5 cars are owned by the founder's grandson, David Kaplan, who has become the marque's unofficial historian. Let's talk specs, shall we? Because this little car packed more innovation than most mid-century sedans. The Playboy A48 was a stubby 2-door convertible, riding on a 90-inch wheelbase and measuring about 155 inches in length, or just under 3.94 meters. It had unibody construction, which was rare for the 1940s, giving it a light but sturdy frame. It was narrow, light, and neatly shaped with a smooth envelope body years ahead of its time. The real party trick, though, was the manually retractable steel hardtop that folded into the trunk. Unlike soft tops that flapped and sagged, the Playboy's metal roof looked sharp up or down and gave the car all-weather usability that no competitor could match. The Playboy's mechanical heart went through a few changes. The earliest prototype had a 2.2-litre Hercules Flathead 4, making around 46 horsepower, plenty of muscle for a car that weighed less than 2,000 pounds, about 860 to 930 kilograms, depending on equipment. When production started, they switched to a smaller 1.5-litre Continental L-head 4-cylinder rated at 40 horsepower. Later cars, especially toward the end of production, received a beefier 2.2-litre Willys Go Devil engine, the same as in wartime Jeeps, with 72 horsepower, enough to give the Playboy a real kick in the tail. All engines were front-mounted and drove the rear wheels through a Warner Gear 3-speed manual transmission. Synchromesh on all gears meant it shifted smoother than a greased politician. An optional overdrive allowed for higher speed cruising, though the base 40-horsepower engine didn't exactly excel at hill climbing in third. Final drive was through a Spicer rear axle with standard 4.01 gearing. Suspension was modern for the time. The front used an independent layout with horizontally mounted coil springs and tubular shocks, almost like a baby McPherson strut. The rear had a live axle with semi-elliptic leaf springs and hydraulic shocks. The braking system featured 9-inch drum brakes on all four wheels, supplied by Wagner Electric, and even had a self-adjusting mechanism. Fancy stuff for 1948. Steering was via a Ross cam and lever system and a 17-inch steering wheel. With 12-inch wheels and narrow tires, the Playboy was undeniably a microcar by American standards. Yet its smart packaging made the most of space, with a 50-inch wide bench seat and a reasonable trunk. The interior wasn't plush, but it was functional, and with the hardtop down, it felt downright liberating. Top speed? Advertised as 75 miles per hour, but 65 was more realistic unless you had a tailwind and a downhill slope. But what it lacked in speed, it made up for in thrift. Fuel economy averaged 30 to 35 miles per gallon, which meant fewer visits to the gas station and more time to impress neighbors with your vanishing roof. Design-wise, the Playboy A48 was no chrome-laden land yacht. Its styling was reserved, modern, and compact, somewhere between a Crossley and a European saloon. Rounded fenders, smooth sides, and that tidy disappearing roof gave it a subtle elegance. The retractable top was pure mechanical magic. It folded neatly into the trunk without the need for electric motors or hydraulic spaghetti. Just a smart set of linkages, human muscle, and a little bit of post-war optimism. That top made the Playboy a coupe when you needed shelter and a convertible when you needed a breeze through your hair and maybe a few bugs in your teeth. Inside, simplicity ruled. A basic dashboard, bench seating, no frills, no chrome overload, no dashboard full of toggles that looked like a failed pinball machine. It was utilitarian in the best sense, usable, light, and focused. The Playboy's unibody and efficient layout meant it felt tight and nimble on the road. Sure, it didn't corner like a Jaguar, but it also didn't weigh 2 tons, or cost as much as your house. But let's end on a high note. The Playboy A48 may have failed as a business, but it left an oversized footprint in automotive history. It was brave. It was clever. It beat Ford to the retractable hardtop by 10 years. It even set a New York to Los Angeles record in 1948, covering over 3,000 miles in just 62 hours. The engineering was ahead of its time, and the name? Well, it became immortal thanks to a different kind of empire. Yes, folks, the legend is true. Hugh Hefner got the idea for Playboy magazine from the car. A friend's mother had worked for the defunct Playboy Motor Car Company and suggested the name to Hef. He thought it sounded classy, sexy, dapper, and history was made. So what did one of these cost when new? Back in 1948, the Playboy Convertible was advertised at just $985. That's about $13,000 in today's money. At auction, values are all over the map. A nicely restored Playboy sold at R.M. Sotheby's Hershey sale in 2018 for a jaw-dropping $132,000. Another decent example sold in 2021 for $56,100. Thanks again to all the amazing folks who support this channel, especially our sponsors. Stay curious, stay classy, and remember, if it folds into the trunk and makes your neighbor jealous, it's a keeper.